Hey everybody, we're coming to you live on Facebook. Dave and I, are in the original WDGC and CATV studios at Downers Grove North High School.
We are here.
This is the 50th anniversary of the station, and they're doing a massive alumni gathering. And we're going to be on our show in about 10 minutes. So if you're in the area, tune in 88.3 FM.
What's the internet address here? Are they up on the internet?
I don't even know if they're up on the internet. That would have been so cool. We would have had the reach that we always wanted.
That would have been good. Just think we're no longer just broadcasting to the White Hen.
Exactly. Did we have a White Hen near here? Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So
It was probably a 7-Eleven, but...
This is a little overwhelming. We've been having cameras put in our face, ask us to do some station IDs, being pulled into other people's shows at the last minute, asking us for our memory. So the brain is working overtime right now, but we're ready to go on and do our own thing in about 10 minutes. And so...
productive chaos.
Productive chaos it is. And here's just a little pan of the studio. This is the TV station portion. And... this is going to be really cool. So we're going to be doing some interviews with Fred later, and I don't know, having a good time. So, hey, we'll talk to you later.
Okay. Minute 10, it is. How about Refugee as the tune when we take a break?
Sure.
Eddie,
That works for me.
I was going to bring in a blues CD, but not like, I wasn't going to bum you out, but I was going to play like some Louis Jordan or something. Do you know who he is from the 40s?
No, that would have been fine.
Yeah, blues doesn't bum people out.
Yeah.
Some people go, oh man, blues. You gotta listen to him, man. You'll see the light.
It's like the old days.
All right, we're coming out.
All right.
That's it.
WDGC 88.3 FM.
Oh wait, this is FM? I thought this was AM.
Is it? How you doing, Dave?
I'm doing okay. Do you realize the last time you and I actually spoke into these probably same microphones from
it looks like it. I
about
see
35
I
years
recognize
ago.
the masking tape.
They smell the same.
They do.
We haven't been on this radio station in, well, you're real good with the computing of the numbers.
34 years.
34 years. That's what I was going to say.
August 17th, 1984 was the last time.
And he knows the date. Wow.
Yeah, I don't know why I've got that talent to remember those milestones. Good to see you.
Oh, it's great to see you.
What have you been up to? And I haven't seen you in 34 years.
Well, after high school, I was bound and determined to continue on the radio path in any way I possibly could. So I went to College of DuPage and worked at the College of DuPage radio station there. Then I went to NIU, did some more radio there, and then actually worked in the business, which I was just so determined to do it. I worked for peanuts at times, could barely pay my rent, moved to Chicago. It was rough, but then it got better. Worked in some management positions and it got better. Then I could pay my rent and eat simultaneously.
Wow.
Which was a real milestone for me.
Yeah.
In radio.
Well, before we actually go down memory lane of what we've been doing, what our life have looked like since we left, I think we should just introduce ourselves. First of all, I'm Chris Baquet. This is Dave Jackson. I'm the class of '84. Dave's the class of '83.
Class of '83.
And first of all, it's just amazing. First of all, do you realize we're at ground zero from where all the magic happened back then, all those years ago? It's really strange.
Same
to be in
room,
the same
everything's different.
Room. It looks a little different. The equipment is much more advanced in some ways. I'm just overwhelmed with emotion. John Waite, general manager of the station now, set this thing up. I don't know when, but I just found out about this on Wednesday.
And so did I.
Well, ironically, ironically, you, who never had any digital footprint online until about a year ago, had to call me to tell me that, hey, we got this thing going. I would have overslept and missed the 50th because I made a conscious effort to turn off all Facebook notifications about a month ago. So I would have missed it. So thank you for doing this.
Thank you for not blocking me.
Yeah.
So that I could contact you.
Yeah, exactly. But we came in to the radio station earlier today, and I noticed that there's very little parking because of I guess they're doing a high school reunion.
They're doing a football game in our honor.
Right. I saw that. 1978, I guess there's a 40th anniversary reunion, and I think maybe even a 50 for 68. I don't know about that.
And there was a tour of the school, and so parking has been tight today.
So I just parked right up next to the door here.
You parked right on the grass.
Right on the grass, right outside the door, which is very convenient. So I appreciate that spot being open for me. But I must say, just looking around here, this has been extremely well organized. I can't imagine what it would take to pull this together, but it's great to see all the alumni. Is it alumni or alum? I heard the terms.
I think it's alum.
Alum.
Alumni is plural.
But I kind of used it in a plural sense. But I hear alumna. Yeah,
I'm the one that's
alumnus,
supposed to know that
because
they actually gave me a degree that I understand these things.
That's right.
And I don't know.
But a couple of days ago, I had heard that there was going to be no on-air signal, no transmitter, no internet connection, and I thought, well, what's the point? Who's going to be listening? But then I thought, what's really changed? I mean, we're kind of used to equipment malfunctions.
Well, yeah, we had that, plus being a 250-watt station. You wouldn't think you'd get a lot of reach out of that, but somehow we did after a while. We built up an audience, people around the area, people that went to school here.
Yeah.
So that was nice. But in general, you wouldn't think many people would be out there.
Yeah.
High school radio station. But you know what? They are. And now that we're on the internet, that adds at least 10 more people.
I would have loved to have had the internet back then. Can you imagine what our influence would have been? We could have changed the world. But instead, we had to kind of work with whatever the weather allowed us to for the signal to carry. You know, certain nights you could get the signal as far south as Bolingbrook, maybe to Hillside. But on a bad day, you'd be lucky if you got down to the White Hen.
Right. The wind just blew your signal right back to you.
Yeah. And I know this from the times that we would get phone calls from people who are picking us up in some really remote suburbs. It's like, wow, our signal's really carrying. So, so I guess what we're supposed to do, we're on here till 2:00, and I didn't have a lot of time to prepare, but I think the goal of today is to really share memories, right?
I think so. Saying what WDGC means to us, and I am wearing purple, so I think I should get some extra credit for that.
Yeah, you should.
Because these are the school colors.
School
half
colors.
of them anyway.
Yeah, you're missing, what is it, white?
Yeah, I'm not
It's
wearing
white
any
and yeah.
Not that you know of.
But we had what we called the Smorgasbord radio show. And actually, before we get there, let's talk a little bit about what happened before then. Because I'm a product of the 1970s, and so are you.
Yes.
And I'm
absolutely.
sure growing up in the Chicagoland area, we listened to WLS, all the disc jockeys that you can think of back then. Larry Lujak, Tommy Edwards, John Landecker. He had a little show.
That's right. WMET.
WMET.
Captain Whammo.
Captain Whammo.
A.K.A.
See, you
Jim
had already
Chanel.
switched over to FM before I did.
Okay.
I was still listening on my transmit.
Oh, yeah. I was listening to
transmitter radio.
WKQX. Mitch Michaels used to be on WKQX.
Oh, yeah,
now he's on the river doing the cruise.
Doing the cruise.
He's on the river now.
But I was really influenced by those guys, and I thought, you know what? I really want to do this someday. So I started doing my own tape recordings in the basement, pretending like I was a disc jockey, and had about 2 or 3 years of that under my belt before coming to the station. And I started to just do my show as I wanted to, and it rubbed people the wrong way here. I had people who were juniors and seniors coming in here.
We had problems.
Saying, who does this guy think he is, just taking over?
Yeah, just play your Led Zeppelin records, go, hey, dude, request a song, and then say the phone number and slur all the numbers together so that you can 852-044.
044.
That was the old phone number.
Yeah, I don't even know what it is anymore.
And instead of call it was coss up.
Coss up.
Instead of call us
Do
up.
you see?
I mean, that was like the basic patter you'd hear.
Yeah.
Not everybody, but some people just kind of, okay, I'll do a radio show. All right, I'll bring my records in. I'll do a show, which is fine too.
But I was a freshman or
But
sophomore.
we wanted to do something.
Yeah, and I was doing something creative, and the students didn't like it, but you heard something that you were drawn to. So tell me about.
Yes, well, I was one of those people. I was doing basically a music show, and back then they used to share the time slots. So you'd be assigned another student, and you would do a show together, which can work great, or it can be a disaster. If you've got a person who's into punk, and then you've got a Black Sabbath person, put them in the same room. It's explosive, right?
That's right.
So, and that would happen. I mean, they would try to mix people together that got along, but it didn't always work. So, and I did a show with this guy, Anton Schragle, and we both liked the same music, so it was fine. So playing music, but then one day I heard you on the air doing something completely different, and my ear's always open for that. And you were doing something creative and different. You were on the air with our friend Pete. And I said, okay, now something's happening here. I knew something was happening, something good was happening. So I listened to your show that whole afternoon, and I just made it a point that I had to figure out who you were. Now, I was on executive staff at the time.
That's
so
right, yeah.
It wasn't that hard to find you. But when I did, I think I just introduced myself to you, and I said I heard your show, and maybe we started to become friends. We would hang out at your basement studio.
That's right.
And we started doing a kind of a format like this, not on the air.
Right.
You'd record it.
Yeah.
And pretty soon we were on the air together. We signed up to do a show together, and it basically sounded like this.
And my take on that was, here, you are a year older than me, still are. But you're a junior, and you're complimenting me, and I wasn't used to that because everybody who was, sort of an upperclassman had already been, kind of bullying me in the day, telling me to stop what I was doing. And I was welcomed for the positive feedback. I said, yes, we're going to have to do a show together. So we signed up. I think we had to sign up on a sheet of like our preference of time, and we got the number one prime time slot. It was actually, we started out as a Saturday night, 8 to 10.
Yes.
And we called it the Chris and Dave Smorgasbord. Smorgasbord meaning a variety of things, variety of topics, just like this. And we did things like, I remember we got these little business cards, the Deeger cards.
The Deeger cards.
Yeah.
There were two versions, the green and the beige.
That's right.
Green was the first year?
The first year, yep.
With the karate guy?
With the karate guy.
Right?
We were looking through this logo,
we picked a
book of logos, and we said, we just picked karate guys.
It just made us laugh. We didn't know why we put it on there, but
had
it made
no
us
reference
laugh.
to anything. And what we would do is we would have these, I guess there were like registration number or some sort of an ID for every card.
Yeah, your Deeger number.
Deeger number, right. And I remember going around town and planting these cards into telephone booths. Remember those relics?
I remember. You still see the alcoves, but there's no phone anymore.
No phone in them. And so the thing would be, we would get on the air at nighttime, and we would say, hey, if you're driving around and you happen to be passing by the phone booth on the intersection of Ogden Avenue and Prince Street, there's a Deeger card there. Be the first person to get the card and call us up.
Call us up.
852-0404, and tell us the number. And then people, either they would call us or we would call the phone booth. We had the phone number for the phone booth. And sometimes somebody would actually be in the phone booth when we called, and we would give them, an album or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was it.
I think we always came through on that.
We
did.
Prizes. No,
we were good.
We put them on our mailing list. We had a mailing list. So we did a show for a couple of years. We'll come back to a couple of memories in a little bit, but we did a couple of shows until 1984. Then we signed off. And then I went off to NIU. And I thought, you know what? I'm going into radio broadcasting as a career because I got this thing down.
Yeah.
And found out that Kirk Moore, son of the general manager, Fred Moore, of this station, was the general manager of WKDI in DeKalb.
Cable FM.
Cable FM. I said,
92.5.
I've got an in. I'm going to get a good time slot there. I know the man. No, it didn't work out that way. I got put on 6 a.m. on Sunday morning in a college town. Not the best audience.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people were up at that hour. Yeah,
up near just hovering over the porcelain god or whatever. But not only was it a college town, it was college. It was a cable radio, like you said. So
right, you had to.
It wasn't even on air.
You couldn't. No, you had to hear the station by plugging your cable TV into the back of your radio. If you had a coaxial connection.
Yeah. I made it 3 episodes, 3 shows. And I said, this is not it. Because I was already starting to get reprimanded by the program manager saying, no, you got to play.
And I was there with you. Was it your first show?
My first show.
Your first show. So I wasn't there the day that you gave up.
Did I threw the towel in?
I wasn't there.
No, you weren't there. That was a very sad day. I said, you know what? I got to change my major. This is a disaster. There's no way I'm going to be able to make this work in the real world.
Dude, you made the right choice. You got a wonderful family, great daughter. I mean, come on.
Thank you. Yeah,
you definitely took the right path there.
So
I mean, if I had been married, I don't think I could have worked at the radio stations for the low pay and the crazy hours. And at one time, I had 3 jobs at one time. I was never home.
No.
So I don't know how I could have handled both of those things. But being single, I said, okay, you know what? All right, I'm going to do this. I can do whatever I want now. So
yeah,
I did.
I'm glad one of us actually tried it out because I can, live vicariously through you and your experience. And I went into market research, work for the Nielsen company now. So I guess that's somewhat related to radio and TV, but nothing like that. But flash forward, I did have a taste to do this again. So in 2010, I was sitting around with my daughter, who was about 11 years old at the time, and I said, hey, you want to get a sense for what your dad used to do? So I went down to my
And
crawl
what daughter
space.
woust want that?
Oh, of course.
Of course. No, seriously.
Well, yeah. Well, I don't know. Not all dads can say that, I don't think. Some daughters don't want to have anything. It's just certainly when they get into their preteens and they start to say, you know what, Dad, you're not cool.
Hey, honey, let me show you how to sell some stocks and bonds.
Yay.
Oh, great, Dad.
Yeah. Well, so I went down to my crawl space and pulled out the old radio equipment from my old days, the mixer, the Radio Shack microphones.
The Radio Shack realistic mixer.
And we just recorded a show around the kitchen table and posted it on iTunes. And we did it again the next week and the next week. And then before you know it, I had another basement studio and we launched a new podcast.
It's a nice one, too.
Called the Smorg Show Podcast. And at this time, about 6 months into it, I said, you know what? I really miss Dave. I said, Dave would really get into this, so I'm going to find him. And I couldn't find you anywhere.
I had no digital footprint at that point.
Nothing.
I
even did one of those things where you look up online a police report to see if
you should have been able to find me that way.
Yeah. Well, it would cost me $19.95, and I didn't want to plop the money. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to let this ride out a little bit. Maybe Dave will find the show someday. But one day I got a letter from you in the mail.
I sent you an actual letter.
I still have it.
Yes.
And had you over. We did a show together, and we haven't looked back. And now we're approaching 100 episodes of the Smorg Show podcast, available at iTunes and smorgshow.com. And where else are we? Spotify. You can listen to us.
Well, that's your department. We're everywhere. Yeah. I know that, but I couldn't name them. I could not name them all.
That's okay. You don't have to. We're out there. Just look for Smorg Show.
We're out there.
Wow, we're just going to keep going. We're already at only 15 minutes. Do we want to play a song and get our bearings and then come back? And
yeah, let's do that. I've already broken one rule. You're not supposed to bring any food or drink. I mean, I've got my water bottle in here, so we've violated at least 4 of the station policies already today.
Did we?
I think so.
Yeah, we used to.
We can play a tune. I've got a little tune here ready for you.
We used to get fined $5 for various rules breaking. One of them was to bring somebody in from the outside that wasn't part of the station.
Oh yeah, and we did that.
Yeah. The way I got around that, though, because like you said, Pete was somebody else who was part of our show, and he used to come in all the time, and Fred Moore said, no, you can't have him. He's not part of the school. So what I did was we used to record our live bits back in my home studio, and I would bring the tape in, and Fred would say, I'm going to fine you $5 for having him in. It's like, no, that's pre-recorded. I did that at my house. He's like, oh, all right. And then eventually we would have him in live, and Fred couldn't figure out whether it was live or Memorex, you know?
Yeah.
To quote I guess I aged myself with that.
Well, Pete was a huge part of our program. He was our writer. Creative input was phenomenal.
That's right. In fact, I think
big part of the show.
He even came up with the Smorgasbord name. Jerry, yeah, another character from the old days. But let's play a tune, and what do you got? What do you got up on there? This is all digital now,
back
right?
then we used to say I've got some Tom Petty queued up on the turntable, and I'll try to start it without a slip cue.
Okay.
Hey. All right.
All right.
WDGC-FM. You got it?
Oh, you got this one. Hey, everybody out there on Facebook. Chris and Dave are in WDGC Studios. First time in 34 years.
Doesn't seem that long, does it?
We're playing some Petty while we get our bearings here in between the bits, but we're on for an hour. This is good time. This is strange to be back in this same room that we did all the stuff those years ago.
Same room, same smell.
Same damaged microphones.
They are the same mics.
It looks like the same microphone.
Yeah,
these are
SM7s.
short. Are they Shores?
Yeah, SM7s, yeah.
Yeah. But all this is being recorded and will be replayed on the Smorg Show podcast for those of you who can't pick up the 88.3 signal, which is pretty much anybody that's outside of a 2-mile radius. So,
yeah, to the Jewel and the 7-Eleven. So if you're around there, you can tune us in live.
yeah. So, check us back for another update. DGC, WDGC 88.3 FM, Downers Grove, Chris and Dave. Chris and Dave's Smorgasbord. I guess that's what this is. We can call it that.
We're back.
You know, one of the things that came to mind as I was preparing some of the memories that we're supposed to come here with is that no matter who you are, everyone who came here this weekend for the 50th anniversary of the station to see Fred, to reminisce with the other alum, everybody feels that they were a student during the station's heyday. I don't care whether it was 1974, 1984, 2004. You felt that the station you were experiencing the station in the heyday. And obviously for us, that was the 1980s. And for me personally, I don't have anything to compare to before that, but afterwards, listening to the station, I think things really changed after we left, because I don't think Fred really wanted anybody else to kind of do what we did. When we left the station, we had given him a tape of our best, most risque bits, and we gave it to him. And I found out later that he played them for some of his classes, which was really amazing.
That felt nice.
Because I didn't know how he felt about us, honestly, until many, many years later. But I would imagine that there's some pretty wild stories of things that went on here during the 70s. And I'd like to hear more of those stories today if we run into some people who are here, because people are from the 1960s. It's amazing. What a great turnout this really is.
Since the station was here, almost.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just familiar with the oldest story with how this used to be. The transmitter was literally in a shoebox that broadcast like down to maybe the gym, right?
Yeah.
Right. So it's really amazing that there are people here from those days that really launched what you're hearing today. So, so what I thought we would do now for this next bit is to actually talk about some of our favorite memories of when we were here. And I've got a few. I don't know if anything jumps out of your mind.
Well,
I know you tried to wipe a lot of it from your memory.
Well, I just wanted to add one thing to what we were saying before, was that I was on executive staff, which is what helped us get that good time slot. The good time slot, that did help us to a certain degree.
Yeah.
But what happened was when I decided to get in your camp, radio-wise, when we started doing more talk programming, more like what we're doing now, I was just as hated as you were for not being a music guy anymore. And I love music. I mean, every day I play my guitar. I mean, but
they turned on
radio-wise, they turned on me. Radio-wise, I kind of dropped that.
Yeah.
And we started doing this, and we were both just on our own, completely on our own, really. Because I don't think anybody else was even trying to do anything close to what we were doing, which was fine.
I really feel like we only got the support once we got to be seniors. Because then we were like, and you had actually graduated because you were a year ahead of me. So you still stayed around here another year with me, which was great. Because by that time, I was at the top of my game in terms of the big fish in the little pond scenario, being a senior, and everybody coming in and younger than that, they didn't really have the same resistance as when we first arrived on the scene.
Definitely helps being a senior.
And so my favorite days were when we did our last season, the summer of '84, when I graduated and we stayed on for the last 3 months before leaving for good. And I'd like to talk about the Carlisle show just a little bit. So the Carlisle, for those of you who are in the area, which I guess would be everybody since we're not online, right?
That's right.
Is a banquet hall on Butterfield Road here. I think it's considered Lombard. And they do banquets, they do weddings. It's a really fancy upscale place. At least it was at its time. I haven't been back there in a while. And right around that time, all the local radio stations were doing live broadcasts from the Taste of Chicago. So I said, Dave, we should do something like that. We should do a live taste of the Deej, taste of the Smorg, something that kind of mimics what everybody else is doing out there. So,
quick question.
Yes.
Before you finish.
Yeah.
We did do a broadcast, a recording from the Tivoli bowling alley.
That's right. That was, yeah.
But that was prior.
That was prior to that.
So that wasn't our first attempt, I believe, to do a remote broadcast.
We tried to do a couple of live remote broadcasts. We did the barn in Naperville.
And the barn in Naperville.
Which is a different story altogether. I'm surprised that one didn't surface at the top. But let me finish the Carlisle and come back to that one later. So I said, Dave, let's do a show. Let's get some sound effects. Pretend that we're doing a live show in front of a lot of people. So we went to WDCB, right?
Yes.
College of...
Yes, where I worked. As a volunteer, but I was there.
And they had a sound effects library or whatever. And we pieced together...
Pre-internet,
right? We had to do everything from scratch. So we found some vinyl of a party atmosphere. And we spliced that together. It was like an 8-minute recording, and we made it into like an hour.
Literally, this was before digital editing now. This is cut and splice.
Cut and splice.
Reel-to-reel tape with a grease pencil and a razor blade.
That's right. To come up with the sound effect track that would lay underneath our voices, and we just did our show, and we pretended like there were restaurants and vendors, food vendors at the Carlisle, and we said to our audience, come on out to the Carlisle. There's free food, free entertainment. We're here. We'll sign autographs, do that whole thing. Well, little did we know that this actually went over and people bought it, because around 10 o'clock when we signed off, the Carlisle called the radio station and they said, stop telling people that you're at the Carlisle because people are starting to show up looking for you and the free food.
Good memory.
I had no idea that this was actually going to be taken seriously, because it's obvious to me now listening that it was fake, because every 8 minutes, you heard the same lady in the crowd.
The sound effect was the same.
The same sound effects. Oh, that's the funniest story I ever heard. This lady over and over again would be on this track. It's so obvious it was fake, but no, it went over. So that was one thing that stood out for me.
Yeah, and like I said, I mentioned the Tivoli bowling alley. That was so much fun to do that broadcast because people were there. I don't know how many people showed up who actually listened and knew us, or was it people that just happened to be there? But there were quite a few people there, and it was fun. And I brought my guitar. I plugged in. We did, what was the song we did? The blues.
Stuck in the Slammer
Stuck
Blues.
in the Slammer.
Yeah, one of our original songs.
We did Stuck in the Slammer. So I got to do some radio and some music in the same night. So that'll always be a great memory for me.
Yeah. Just a little bit about the Tivoli. Yeah, that was one of those things where we showed up. We promoted this thing for weeks. We said, we're going to rent out a little room that's kind of adjacent to the bowling alley. And we sat our stuff up, and we didn't know who was going to be there. We showed up, and all of a sudden, all these bikers and burnouts, back in the day, the term was burnouts, concert t-shirts, long hair, and they filled the room, and they were sitting down, arms crossed, like they wanted to be entertained. And I looked at Dave and I said, I don't know how I'm going to pull this off. These guys don't look like they're part of our show. I think they just happen to be hanging out here on a Saturday night. And we had the best time with these guys.
Everybody had fun.
They were so engaging. We put them up on stage. We gave them the mic. We gave them Ozzy Osbourne albums as prizes. They loved us. It was a great time. So, yeah, another good memory. I'm going to save this other story for last for the hour because I think it's a very special one. But we'll come back.
You're talking about the bad night.
The bad
that
night
we had. Okay.
Yeah.
There was a bad night.
A bad night.
Which over time
Aged
has healed and scarred over, and now we all laugh about it.
It's aged
At least
like
you and I
fine
do.
wine. Yes. I'm trying to think what else happened here. I was well, we're out in the looking out the window here. We could see the old TV station, and I don't know. I don't think you were part of my TV class at all. You weren't on.
No. I took TV.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, I worked on the DGTV station, and I did take the class, but I wasn't in your class. I don't recall.
No.
But I don't think so. Pretty sure I wasn't.
Well, we did a variety show for the TV class, kind of like the Smorgasbord, but in video. So everybody in the class had their own little bit, and it was a variety show and it was spliced together. Some of it was good, some of it was cheesy. Most of it was cheesy, actually. But that is where we debuted. So we had a character on our show, Baba Ganesh, who is from India, and he would come in here with his words of wisdom every week. And he's still on the Smorg Show podcast, actually. He's about 75 now. He's got a restaurant. Yeah, long story short. But Baba actually was part of the TV show. And the memory I have of that was one time we were making a bit for how to make a fly casserole.
Yes.
And I don't know where that idea came from, but in hindsight, it was really stupid. But it was basically Baba sitting there with incense burning, putting together ground beef, and obviously had no idea culturally what that meant because Indians don't eat beef. The cow is sacred. So I have no idea why we wrote that into the script, but it showed our ignorance of the culture. But
Blame
anyway,
it on our youth.
Yes. But we would record this bit of him putting together a casserole with this ground beef that was raw meat with cheese and tomato sauce, and then we would scrap it for the day because it didn't come out, and we would just throw this heap into the garbage can that the janitor would have to come in that night and clean the garbage can out and say, what was this from? And then we would do it again the next day and 3 days before we got it right, that this janitor had to clean out the garbage can with ground beef. So I don't know, that came to mind. So I was looking out there to see if I saw the stains because I was told that the carpeting is still the same from the 80s.
I think they painted over all the stains because everything is purple. The walls are kind of a lavender.
Yeah.
Or purple.
Yeah.
So they did change that. We've been erased.
We've been erased.
We've been removed. Eradicated.
That's right. Well, we've gone way over time of our allotted time, so we broke another rule. It's 1:31. And you want to go to
you have to turn your head to see what time it is.
Yeah, I'm not sure I like the
and you
layout
still
here.
can't see the clock when you turn your head.
Well, especially at this age, you got to really turn your whole body because your neck
not
doesn't
easy
go
when you're
around
over.
anymore. It's
For sure.
So what else is going on?
A couple other things, a couple of good memories that we had were we did some game shows.
Oh, the game
We did
shows.
a game show called Get a Life. And I don't mean to say this in a boastful way, but I think we were the ones that came up with that idea. And until I hear or see a reference to that term before we used it, because after we used Get a Life, next thing you know, there's a TV show called Get a Life.
with Chris.
Chris,
Oh,
yeah, that guy.
the
The
ball.
guy that was on Letterman.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I can't remember his name.
So anyway, so we did that, and then we also did a feature called Homework Hotline, where we asked people to call in, and we gave them help with their homework. And I was trying to help a young lady understand imaginary numbers. When actually, if she called in today, I might be able to help her a little more than I used to. But still,
Here it is.
but then later on, that's our bell, the
This
cowbell.
is the bell. Finish your
But then
story.
later on, Homework Hotline showed up on WBBM as a feature, the news station.
That's right.
It showed up there. So that was the second time. I thought, okay, I mean, I don't want to sound like, people are listening, but were people listening
Yeah.
to high school radio stations to rip off ideas? I don't know, but it kept happening.
Yeah,
Some
there
of
were
the
a
things
few
we did
examples
just
of
kept
that.
showing up places.
Yeah, so that the homework hotline thing was the way I remember it is we decided to just take phone calls randomly, and we said, "Hey, call us up." And some girl called us up and wanted help with her algebra, and you helped her. I still have that old bit; it's on iTunes.
Right.
And she became a good fan. She sent us this bell because we had asked our audience for other game shows that we did to send in a bell. And one day showed up, and Fred says, "You have some mail." And it was a package, and it's this old game show. It's a little rusty, but it's still working.
That's the one.
Turns out I ended up dating her for the next 3 years. So it's kind of funny. But yeah, the game show Get a Life was, the way I remember it, was that you would call up, you would describe your life, and you would want to change it.
It had to be, you had to prove that your life was pathetic.
Right. And you wanted to exchange it for something more.
We put the person on the air without a delay, I know.
No delay.
But we were ready to hang up if we had to. But nobody ever gave us a problem.
No.
But you had to prove that your life was so pathetic. And then we volunteered a new life.
And they'd have to pick behind door number 1, 2, or 3.
Door 1, 2, or 3.
And they would get the prize. And their life took effect at midnight that night. So marine biologist, several other ones.
Yeah, there were a few other ones. Not to be mentioned.
You're right. Pushing the limits a little bit. But yeah, that was a lot of fun.
So those were a couple of my favorite memories.
Yeah. So I think we've been talking here for a while. We're going to switch to a song. Oh, not yet. We got to keep
not
going.
Quite.
Okay. We're being given the cue here that things are not quite ready for us. So I'm running out of memories here.
Now, you want to save our bad day for the end? Because I think we're getting kind of close. We could talk about our bad day now.
Actually, we can. Let's talk about the bad day. So back to the delay system. We had engineered our own delay system here. And this is back in the day. So anybody who's listening now, you have to be, I think, if you're under 30, you probably won't be able to relate. But we had 2 reel-to-reel tape decks in here against this wall, in its own rack. And we thought, let's take both machines and we'll use machine 1 to record the show, and record it through the recording heads, but to play it back on machine 2.
Right.
And the time it took for the tape to go from the recording heads to the playback heads was about 6 seconds. So we would be able to take live phone calls on the radio, record ourselves on reel 1, play us back on reel 2.
And it worked.
The problem is we played unnecessary games with it, as Mr. Moore.
Yeah, we had too much fun with that.
Yeah.
If we had just left it alone, nobody would have even known we did it.
Right. But we would play it back and record it and play it back.
Some feedback effects.
Created a feedback,
yeah.
And it just kept looping and looping and looping until it got out of control. And so Fred Moore called me up right after the show ended, and he said, "Don't talk, just listen. Get a pen, get a piece of paper, and write this down." And I'm shaking because I'm a sophomore? No, I was a junior at that point. And he read the 9 commandments, things that we were supposed to follow from this point forward. The first one, do not use the delay system. Pretty self-explanatory. Number 2, do not put the telephone on the air, because our whole show was about taking phone calls.
That was practically the whole show. Okay.
Yeah.
You're right.
Number 3, talking should not exceed 10 minutes per hour.
Per hour?
Per hour. Not per bit.
Yeah, we were
per
doing
hour.
per bit.
Number 4, do not refer to equipment functions on the air, because we would be complaining about hums.
Well, what we just did, we explained.
Yeah.
The
well,
delay,
yeah, talked about the delay system.
Don't talk about that.
We've already broken that rule, right. Yeah. Number 5 was... Oh, we got some music going here. Oh, sorry. Hey, that's okay. Number 5 was my favorite. Do not try to be funny because you're not. And that one actually...
We knew that already.
We knew that one already. And that one actually was one I was carrying on throughout life afterwards. One of the most applicable, I think, afterwards. Next one was, do not talk over songs or other recorded material. Do not tie up the telephone. That's because he couldn't get through to us to yell at us earlier that night.
Good thing he lived close by. He could just come over and yell at us.
Which he did on another occasion, yeah. Giggling and studio noises are prohibited. Yeah, we did a lot of that. And then no special effects shall be used. So basically, that was our show. So what could we do?
Yeah.
So that's when we started to do recorded bits from my home studio, and we would bring them in.
Yes. It worked for you the first time with Pete.
Yeah. I would do
It worked the second time.
Do everything recorded. Oh, yeah, he wanted us to audition them.
He wanted to hear the bits.
He wanted to hear them beforehand.
That wasn't on the list, but I remember that.
Yeah, that lasted about 2 weeks, and then he says, I don't want to listen to these anymore. And so gradually we would move from the recorded function back to live, and he didn't know whether we were recording it live or doing it pre-recorded. So
it worked twice.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So what we're trying to do here is to cue up a song that I had written at the time, because to close out the story. Oh, you got it? Thank you so much. We had Fred, once he cooled down, he recorded an intro for our summer season, for our last season. And he read the thing to us of don't talk, just listen, that whole thing. And then he read the rules for us, and I recorded it. And I put it into this song that I call Sympathy for the DJ, based on the old Rolling Stones classic. So I thought it would be good to play this again because it really represents everything that we just talked about here. So let's play this now.
And then when we come back, we can talk about the time we got Fred Moore to get out of bed, drive over here in his pajamas.
Yes.
And read us the riot act and do an illegal sign-off.
That's right. We'll save that one for last. So here it is on WDGC 88.3 FM.
This is Mr. Moore. Don't talk, just listen.
Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a man who's been on the airwaves. I've been on the air for many a long year, and I've always tried to get my way. Had my days of strife and pain when the general manager got on my case. Some of the people at the station now are doubtfully in the human race. Pleased to meet you, hope you add to my fame. But I always get in trouble when I try not to be the same. Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a man trying to introduce some change to a place that's been around for a long, long year, and you can find it in the FM range.
Hey, Facebook audience, Chris and Dave taking a break now. We're playing Sympathy for the DJ, our song from back in the 80s about our general manager, Fred Moore. And oh, I think we're live.
It says we are.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, about 2/3 of the show down.
Oh, this was my guitar solo, right? I was playing this.
Use the delay system.
Okay.
There it is.
I am going to be listening. Do you hear me? I don't want any funny stuff. Don't think Fred Moore goes to sleep at 8 o'clock. So, do the show, use good judgment, follow format, and remember, no funny stuff. No funny stuff.
Oh, WDGC 88.3 FM. Fred Moore, Sympathy for the DJ. The way I remember it, he actually recorded that for us on our very last show, because on our last show, we had Fred as our special guest, and we had General Manager Torture Night, where we would play all of our bits that got us into trouble over the years.
Which took up the whole show.
Pretty much. It was kind of a roasting. But he sat there, he took it, and then at the very end, we gave him a plaque telling him how much we really appreciated his role in, kind of our show. And letting us do what we did. We gave him a tie, took some pictures, and he recorded those lines for us, which then later became part of the song. So that was great. The funny thing about it, now that I think about it, is when he called us up with those rules, he was furious then. You know that he had to write those down himself, so I can see him going down the list. Don't try to be funny because you're not. No giggling. Just funny. So you had brought up something else that we wanted to talk about was the time that we got Fred to come down in his pajamas.
Oh, never forget that one.
So this is probably where I would say I don't know what I was thinking. I had every right to be reamed out like I did. When we did our show, we used to have a lot of equipment that we would bring. We had the record crates, of course.
The record crates, the milk crates. You put your albums in the milk crate in case you haven't never seen that.
Yeah. But I had mics and mixing boards and all this kind of stuff. I don't know what we did, but we had all of our equipment. And it was just an inconvenience to park your car down the street, to walk, to bring this heavy equipment in here. So I decided to just drive my car up to the door. By the station door. But my mistake was I never moved the car back to the street. So I left it there all night. Well, the neighbors across the street saw there was this Toyota Celica sitting up on the grass next to the door. I mean, not even by the door. It was like
at the door.
At the door. Sorry. At the door. And Fred got a call, and he came down.
In his pajamas?
In his pajamas. And he turned the transmitter off right in the middle of our whatever we were talking about. It was probably 10 minutes to midnight. No warning. Transmitter goes off. He flips on the lights and just starts screaming at me.
Well, at us. I mean, we were there together, but
well, you were in the way, but I think he was directing most of the wrath at me. It was my car.
Well, maybe I don't know if even Fred knew it was your car at the time. Did he? I don't know.
I don't know.
But
he
yelled a lot. And cussed a little.
I was shaking for the next 2 days. But I got suspended.
Intense. That was intense.
I was suspended for 6 weeks from my show. So I think I don't know if you were by.
Well, yeah, I did have to kind of do it on my own, and I tried as best I could, but of course it wasn't the same.
I think you just played music.
Oh, that's terrible. Is that what I did?
I think you just.
Oh, that's horrible.
I think you just phoned it in just to say,
I just phoned it in?
Yeah.
Well, that was my protest show then.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
gonna play some Sabbath live for you on DGC. Call us up. 852-0444.
So we don't know who's in here after us. It's 10 minutes to 2 o'clock.
I don't know if anyone's coming on after us or what.
And it'll be just like the old days.
Somebody will be on.
When we would do a show and no one would show up for their shift, so you ended up being here.
That happened a lot. People didn't show up.
Didn't you have to cover for 4 shifts or something?
Yeah, sometimes that's happened. In the summer, people don't want to come in.
Yeah.
On a hot day, no air conditioning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you did it because we had no life. We didn't have any sports events to go to.
No life.
No girlfriends.
Radio. Hey,
you know,
I'll do it.
Yeah.
And look where it got me. I'm right back where I started.
In my basement.
Love it.
Well, I'm out of material, actually. I think we went through the full things.
I have one other quick memory. I did another show on my own in the interest of just trying to be creative and different, coming up with new ideas. I did a show called Open Mind.
Oh, yeah.
Which was not a long-lived project, but I tried it for a while. And I tried to do some shows on some different things like reincarnation. And then I got in trouble for that.
Of course.
Someone on staff called Mr. Moore, Dave's talking about reincarnation. It's like, what do you care? And then Fred backed me up on it. He said, well, I kind of like it.
Yeah.
So, okay, that was good. But I tried, some different things. But one thing I attempted to do on this Open Mind program was I made a phone call. Well, I've done this twice, actually. I don't know what my obsession was. My first time I did this, I said, let's call up a radio station that starts with a K.
Oh, yeah, we did this.
Because, we did this one we did together. Because all the radio stations west of the Mississippi, west, have a K, unless they were grandfathered in, right? Like there are exceptions. Like east of the Mississippi are all W.
Yeah.
the stations start with W. There's some exceptions, KDKA in Pittsburgh, which was one of our Radio 1 questions with
the
Mr.
very
Moore.
first radio station, yeah.
Yeah. First licensed station, I think.
1922, I think.
But anyway, so I said, let's call up a radio station that starts with K. So we called somewhere out west, and we found, I think it was another high school station.
KYDZ.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And we spoke to the young lady there, and she was explaining. And
it was Easter break, I think.
I asked her if it was it rewarding to work for a radio station that begins with a K.
Yeah.
And she
didn't get our humor.
She still talks about
I'm sure
this crazy guy that called her up one day.
During those phone calls, I remember getting put on the air on their end.
Oh, they did it on their end too. Okay.
So we both share. Yeah. That was fun.
Well, I need you for my memory.
But your Open Mind show, we ended up making it almost
and then I called Australia.
Oh, yeah, you called Australia.
And then the school billed me for that one.
You got the bill.
I got the bill for that.
I called Iran.
You called Iran.
Yeah.
Irani fried chicken, right?
Islamic fried chicken.
Yes.
Chicken. That was actually, I honestly stole that one from
Did
Steve
you get your
Dahl.
order?
No, never arrived.
All right.
But your Open Mind show was another one of those shows that it was kind of, you just did whatever came to you for that night.
Yeah, there was some structure, but I kept it open. I had some on-air guests. My music teacher came on. I interviewed her for a while.
That's right.
Yeah.
I joined you a couple of times on that show. In fact, I want to talk about the Dateline that we did. Because I remember exactly what happened. So Chris and Dave did a Smorgasbord show in the 82 season, but then in 83, we broke up. We kind of went our own ways. We split. You did your Open Mind show. I did the Smorgasbord show with Jeff Baran, but it was more of it wasn't the same. It was basically me and, Jeff supporting
you
what I was
bounced
saying.
off of Jeff, but he wasn't quite as vocal as you needed.
Right. But we did that for about a year, and then we got back together. But during that period when I was with Jeff, I would show up on your show. But on my show, I did the salad bar contest where we would call around local restaurants, looking for the best salad bar in the area. And then, so we would call the restaurants, hey, can we talk to the chef? And they would tell us what was in their ingredients. We finally picked the salad bar. I don't remember what it was. But then the next night we did Dateline on your show, where we tried to fix up Kathy Kelly, who worked for the station at the time,
right,
with a date. And we just took phone calls all night until we paired her up.
And she had no problem. We knew people were listening that night.
Oh, boy, that phone was off the hook. That show is on iTunes if you go to the Smorg Show, because that's a classic. But obviously the winner would take Kathy to the salad bar that won the award from the previous night, and we would pay for their date. So that was a fun episode.
And they've been married ever since?
Yes.
Or, yes.
I think so.
Okay. That's great. That's a happy
it's
ending.
A happy ending. So yeah, that's about it.
Did you have any favorite teachers here at North High?
Besides Fred?
Besides Fred. Fred's number one, but
of course. You know what?
No
Only a couple really stand out. I had Oscar Larson. He was probably about 80 when he taught geometry. He was good. Blatchley. How about Clifford
Mr.
Blatchley, science teacher?
He was, he retired. He was a Christian Scientist, and he wouldn't go to the doctor. Was there some?
Yes, he was Christian Scientist, and he didn't go to the doctor. But
and he had some health problems.
Yeah.
So he had to leave at some point.
And Dr. Karstens, Coach Karstens.
And the football field is now named Karstens Field. Yes.
He was great for history because we would have these football players as students in the class, and he didn't take any garbage from them. He ripped them every time, but he would give, guys like me a fair shot, and I don't know. He was a good guy. But
teachers know when you have a lot of attitude or when you're trying.
Yeah, absolutely. Dave keeps looking over at the clock because
I don't want to run past our time.
Yeah, because we got UPI coming up here at the top of the hour.
Yes, we do. Some satellite news for you.
United Press International News, is that coming in? Yeah, I don't even know what happens at 2 o'clock.
I like Mrs. Cantrell. She was one of my favorites.
Mrs. Cantrell?
Mrs. Cantrell, yeah.
What
I even came back to visit her. She was an English teacher, and I had her for a class that was called Bible as Literature.
Really?
Which was a fascinating class, something you kind of expect to see in college, actually.
Yeah, didn't think they had that here.
But I think it's time to
close out?
Close it out.
Yeah, I don't know what happens at 2 o'clock.
They gave us our hour, but we'll play some music and see what happens.
Yeah, let's find out if anybody shows up. I don't see anybody out the door. I think we've got this for the rest of the day, Dave. And I've got no material. I've got some old shows we could just play from my computer. See, I brought all the equipment again today. But it's in my backpack because everything is so compressed these days, you can do that. Well, we'll see what's going on. But if not, this was another great memory. Yeah.
It was great doing this again with you, Chris.
Let's do it again in another 50.
See you in 50.
Okay.
All right. WDGC-FM.
WDGC-FM giving away $1. If you call us up when we play David Gilmour and Rolling Stones back-to-back, you win $1 from the big one, DGC-FM.